Now the details. The Ministry of Trade and Industry here in Rwanda is again urging traders to comply with the established prices of commodities, which include rice, maize flour and Irish potatoes, or face the consequences. Olive Nete with the details.
On the 19th of April, that is when the Ministry of Trade and Industry established new prices of some commodities, such as rice, Irish potatoes and maize flour. It's been 2 weeks since then, and residents are grateful to the government. The price of the rice was reduced, such as the type of rice we cultivate here in Rwanda, called chigori, and that of ugarama. But the rice imported from Tanzania is still expensive. However, some residents request a follow-up on the implementation of the new set prices because some of the traders do not comply with it.
Currently, the less expensive rice is chigori, which is at 900. We wish that it could reduce, as mentioned on the radio.
On the other side, some traders say that they comply with the established prices, even if there is need to mobilize those who do not comply with it. Most of the time, we who sell imported goods, they say that we sell at an expensive price because the set prices announced on radio and TV is for local goods harvested within the country. But for the imported rice, there is no tariff for it, and at times, residents come expecting to buy the rice at 800. Despite the issue of not complying with set prices, there is also another issue of not publicly displaying prices in the markets. In order to follow up with the implementation of the new established prices, Dr. Jean Chrysostome, the Minister of Trade and Industry, visited some of the markets. He pointed out that there are punishments for those who do not comply with it.
First of all, a trader must publicly display the prices in the markets. It is an order. Second, they must provide an ABM, and the good thing is that many of them provide it. And the third, they must not raise prices way beyond. They will be punished for that. We bear with them for a while so that we can work together. But in upcoming days, we'll send people from various institutions we work with in various markets to see the progress of the implementation, and we shall punish those who do not abide by that, because that's the good way of correcting them if they do not comply with the set rules.
The Ministry of Trade and Industry demonstrates that the value-added tax has been waived off on maize flour and rice, making a kilogram of maize flour 800 Rwandan francs. For rice, short-grain rice is at 820 Rwandan francs, long-grain rice is at 850 Rwandan francs, and basmati at 1,455 Rwandan francs. For Irish potatoes, Kinigi is at 460 Rwandan francs, Kirundo's price is 440, Twiha's is 430 Rwandan francs, and Peko Irish potato cost is 410 per kilogram. Olive Nete, RTV News.
Staying on that issue, authorities in Rusizi district have announced that they are going to intensify inspections and penalize traders that are hiking up prices. Adam Squeezera with more.
The current issue now is for the consumers who are not finding any commodity at the market, due to that some traders don't even want to follow the new prices as to was established by the Ministry of Trade and Industry. They refuse to give us rice while they have it, and I saw it.
They say that in their stores they bought the goods at a higher price. That's why they closed them.
They purchased them at a high price, as they know that as the only reason why they can't reduce the price.
When we ask in some shops, you find that, for example, 1 kilogram of rice is 1,400 or 1,300. It is not the same way as it was set.
The Ministry of Trade and Industry has provided a hotline number 3739 for help in case of non-compliance by traders. We called this number 5 times, but no one answered. However, the mayor of Rusizi district, Dr. Chiviriga Aniset, warned these traders. There are penalties for those who hide the commodities, as we urge them to stop doing those acts that are contrary to the measures, since there are some penalties set for them. However, the traders in Rusizi often shows that goods arrives at an additional cost of transportation than in other places depending on the location of this district. Adam Squeezera, RTV News.
Now to other matters. Young people who created software that proved a solution to some of the challenges the country had been facing have noted that Rwanda has the proper political will to support the ideas of creative young people. Meanwhile, authorities in this country are working towards a specific goal when it comes to ICT development in the country. Olive Nete with more.
It's been 5 years since Patrick Irasubiza started to develop software programs that assist people with commercial and residential houses in payment process to those that rent them and other various services, while Pisindori Raguha made an application that assists people to maintain a healthy life through diets, physical activities and more. Both are grateful to the good policy of the country that allowed them to reach this milestone.
We are currently expanding our operations, and we aim to work with the entrepreneurs in Uganda and in Tanzania by providing them this software. We also have partners in Nigeria who work with real estate companies. We are currently seeing how we can provide advisory services to some entrepreneurs.
The country provides a good platform to share ideas and implement them, and we are also enhancing efforts in our activities so that we can provide our contribution and also to see the increase in number of women in startups. In 2022, about 3 billion have been invested in startup projects in Africa, and specifically North-Ken Rwanda earned $7 million. Although the country's income from startups has not reached the level of countries like Morocco, Egypt, Kenya and other countries, according to the report of Paritech Venture Investment, Rwanda is also listed in 10 countries in Africa with startups that grow rapidly due to the political will in supporting them. Mugabonake Olivier made softwares that operate in Rwanda and 6 other countries. He explains more on how Rwanda can earn more through technology.
I always give an example of a tech company in Morocco. They are working in banks, and their banks trust those companies, and banks give them a task, such as processing cards. And as those banks grow, they buy other banks, such as the case of Bank of Africa or other banks in East Africa, such as Tejelefa and BMC banks. These are big groups of banks from Morocco, but also the technology used in their banks is at a high level because they work as a team. And if companies don't work as a full set, it hinders them when it gets to a competition.
The second vice president of the Private Sector Federation, Aimable Kimenyi, notes that the private sector aims to prioritize the use of technology in their activities and also to provide opportunities to young people to increase their knowledge and create more jobs.
We currently have 100 employees, but we are in need of at least 1,000 employees. And when we look at the numbers in schools, we can't even reach that number. That's why we are increasing efforts as PSF so that every company can be connected and use technology in its activities. And for that to happen, we need trust from the public sector so that it can employ those young people. The greatest thing is that every student from ICT schools gets an internship and gets a project to work on.
To date, startups generate an income from technology that equals to 3% of the gross domestic product, and 5% of all jobs that will be created by 2024 will be provided from technology. Alexander Pino, an employee at Microsoft, an international company and largest vendor of computer software in the world, during his stay in Rwanda recently, he pointed out that they are content to work with Rwanda, a country that has prioritized technology-based operations.
It's certainly interesting to see how much Rwanda is investing on the digital transformation and becoming, like I said, a real example in Africa in terms of using digital to advance, societal impact and to advance public service. And we are supporting some of that effort too through the work also jointly with the United Nations and our team.
Experts in technology who attended the Transform Africa Summit, which recently took place in Zimbabwe, expressed the need for efforts to support women in technology projects in order to close the gap that is evident, and this would increase the gross domestic product of the world by 3%, and this sector would be able to generate $330 billion per year. Olive Nete, RTV News.
Survivors of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi from Amayaga of the former Ntongwe commune are requesting for the construction of a historical building at the Kinazi Memorial Site that shows how the genocide against the Tutsi in that area was carried out. We have the details with Shina Tete.
Among the mentioned names during the 29th commemoration of the Tutsi killed during the 1994 genocide in the former commune of Ntongwe, which is now in the Kinazi sector, is Charles Kagabo, who was by then the bookmaster of Ntongwe. He gathered the Tutsi to the commune where they were killed. Those who survived in this area show the hard life they went through and how they were able to rebuild themselves. Furthermore, survivors of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi are requesting for the construction of a historical building at Kinazi Memorial Site to demonstrate how genocide against the Tutsi in this area was carried out. The Speaker of the Chamber of Deputies, Donatil Mukabarisa, thanked the survivors at Amayaga for the efforts they have put in rebuilding themselves and promised that their request of constructing a historical building at Kinazi Memorial Site will be followed up on. It is indeed an issue we think about because in the follow-up the deputies carry out, this request has been addressed and we shall continue to hold discussions with the responsible authorities in regards to how it can be granted depending on our country's budget. Survivors also say they are saddened by the fact that there are no whereabouts of Charles Kagabo, who was the bookmaster of Ntongwe commune by then. At Kinazi Memorial Site, there are currently close to 63,000 bodies of Tutsi that were killed during the 1994 genocide. During the 29th commemoration, other 40,000 bodies were laid to rest in honor at the same memorial site, including 30,000 bodies that were moved to this memorial ground together with 10,000 bodies that were found in different areas. Shina Teta, RTV News.
Similarly, during activities to commemorate the genocide against the Tutsi in what used to be Gisenyi Prefecture, the survivors have requested that the genocide memorial of Commune Rouge should include details of the atrocities that were committed there. Adam Squizera with the details.
On Sunday in Ruvu district, they commemorated for the 29th time the genocide perpetrated against Tutsi, who were killed in the former prefecture of Gisenyi, a place known as Commune Rouge, and others who came from different areas, trying to flee to Democratic Republic of Congo.
They had too many supporters since they knew where we were hiding, plus the fact that it was well prepared. As before, we used to see the Interahamwe militia coming to Bigogwe in the training, but we never knew what will happen. Then during the genocide, they used to kill people and take their bodies to Commune Rouge, and that is where this name originated. After the fact that a man who went there knew that he was going to commune as usual, and he found that they were killing people. That's where he said that this is Commune Rouge, and then they killed him.
Based on that history, they requested that this genocide memorial of Commune Rouge should include all that history that shows the atrocities that was done. As a result of that, this area is where the top leaders of the country, including Habyarimana Juvenal, who's the president of the country, came from.
We want this history to be gathered in this memorial so that anyone who heard genocide should also be able to see the signs. Like for us here in Gisenyi, they were killing, saying that they are making a revenge for Habyarimana. That is why they killed Tutsi.
The Minister of National Unity and Civic Engagement, Dr. Bizimana Jean Damascene, pointed out that the ministry is ready to support the research on that history of this Commune Rouge. But the ministry has to read and correct those researches, hence to avoid various mistakes that should be found. That research is the one which is based on when we are putting all the history in the memorial centers, but basing on the evidences from the research. The Commune Rouge Genocide Memorial Center is the final resting of more than 5,000 victims of the genocide against Tutsi who were killed in Rubavu. Adam Squizera, RTV News.
Now a quick look at international news. Pope Francis has called on Hungarians to open their doors to migrants as he wraps up a 3-day visit to the Central European country led by a Prime Minister who is staunchly anti-immigration. Throughout his visit to Budapest, dominated by the war in neighboring Ukraine, the Pope emphasized a welcoming stance towards those fleeing conflict or poverty. The comments have stood in stark contrast to those of Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. The Prime Minister has welcomed Ukrainian refugees but has otherwise espoused anti-migration rhetoric to defend what he has called a Christian Europe since coming to power in 2010. More than 50,000 people, including Prime Minister Orban, listened to the Pope lead an open-air mass at a central Budapest square under tight security. Later, Francis delivered his trip's last speech to academics at a Catholic university in Budapest before leaving Rome. A university is, as its very name indicates, a place where thought emerges and develops in a way that is both open and symphonic. It is a temple where knowledge is set free from the constraints of accumulation and possession and can thus become culture. Hungary has a succession of ideologies that impose themselves as truth, yet fail to bestow freedom. Today, too, that risk remains. I think of the shift from communism to consumerism. Common to both those isms is a false notion of freedom. That report came to us courtesy of AFP. So that will be it from me and the rest of the team. Thank you for joining us for this edition of the news, and goodbye.